Needed about 23 minutes of quality football tonight in Atlanta, but it needed the full 60 to offset the power of the national champion Ohio State Buckeyes, falling 34-23 after putting itself in a 31-7 hole with a very difficult first half. I'm Tim O'Malley with Tim Priester of Irish Illustrated and John Bryce of Football Scoop. And guys, we talked on Instant Analysis that you can't let Ohio State take it to you for that long and expect things to go perfectly in the second half. Notre Dame fought the good fight, but in the end, it just wasn't enough. And Ohio State, the best team in college football, won tonight.
And it really wasn't even the entire first half. I mean, Notre Dame couldn't have asked for a better tone-setting drive to open the game. And that was an 18-play drive that lapsed nearly 10 minutes of game clock. It lapsed more than 12 minutes of actual clock time. That was time that Ohio State's offense couldn't get off the field, couldn't get on the field. But then you're right. The next 20 to 25 minutes of game time were debilitating for Notre Dame. And I made the same comment you did. Ohio State made it look so easy on its first couple of scoring drives. And then Ohio State had a 14-0 edge in the middle eight. First time all year that Notre Dame lost the middle eight and lost it emphatically.
Yeah, Notre Dame had – in their first drive, in the 18-play drive, they had 6 plays that were either third or fourth down. So they had to go to the well, and they succeeded. It was a tremendous drive. It certainly seemingly set a tone that would allow Notre Dame to hang in there. But as you said when you turned to me, Tim, and said, what Ohio State's doing is looking a lot more sustainable. It was true because they were getting larger chunks. They were picking up first downs on third down, short third down conversions. And it just started to snowball. I mean, it went 31 straight points, 21 in the second quarter, which, most good teams have great productivity in second quarters. Penn State was certainly like that to an extreme, and Ohio State is as well. They scored 21. And then the backbreaker. And Notre Dame, to their credit, to hang in there and to pull within 8 is incredible when you give up a 70-yard run on the second snap of the second half, and now you're chasing 24 points. Jaden Grace, I'm getting ahead of myself here a little bit, but before you knew it, that momentum was not only gone, but had completely shifted in Ohio State's favor.
Ryan Urquhart. Oh, getting that one wrong for you, Ryan, but we have the exact same question I asked Marcus Freeman this. After such a productive first drive, what did Ohio State do to take the Riley Leonard-led running game out of it? And Marcus mentioned that he, as I said, it's not sustainable what you're doing to Riley Leonard here. You can't run him like that all game. He was, of course, throwing up on the sidelines afterwards. He landed on the football twice in a row. He said, I thought he got dinged on the very first carry of the game when he was slammed onto his shoulder. Asked Mike Denbrock about it, too. They needed to find another way to move the ball other than Riley Leonard running QB power 34 times into the offensive line. That wasn't going to win the game either. They did find something downfield late in Jaden Greathouse. We'll get to that a little bit later. But honestly, if you told me the offense would score the 23 points and have a chance with a Mitch Jeter field goal to make it 26 from 27 yards out, I'd have taken that pregame. Notre Dame never got their cleats in the ground until after Drake Bowen forced a fumble. Everything before that was Ohio State moving the ball with the worst case scenario, a field goal. Drake Bowen forced a fumble on a beautiful reverse to Egbuka. They gained 19 yards, and that was the first big play Notre Dame made. At that point, from that point forward, Notre Dame started to play a little bit more Notre Dame football other than the uncharacteristic Jeter miss.
Yeah, Bowen forced the turnover there, but a couple of stats that I think really tell the tale of the tape, and that is Ohio State had 4 different ball carriers who had at least one double-digit run by himself. Ohio State had 4 different receivers who had at least one reception go for 15 or more yards. Notre Dame never had a run longer than 9 yards on the night. That was Jadarian Price. Riley Leonard had an 8-yard run. And Notre Dame had 4 guys, I think, with receptions for double digits. But there was, as we've already noted, Howard started the game 13 for 13. He was 12 for 12 for $127 and a touchdown. And Ohio State made it look easy. And we haven't seen anybody make it look that easy against the Notre Dame defense in my opinion, since 2002 when it was Caleb Williams. And that was a superb quarterback with good skill and a less fast, less drilled, less sound Notre Dame defense. This is the worst we've seen anybody make this version, which I consider 23-24. This is the worst we've seen anybody make this Notre Dame defense look.
And as you pointed out, JB, in the instant analysis, Will Howard hurt them with his feet. 16 carries. I'd have to go back and double check it, but I doubt very much whether he had that volume of work in any previous game. 64 yards. I believe he converted 3 third-down runs in the first 2 drives, and that was killer. And then on the flip side, Jeremiah Love wasn't Jeremiah Love still. In fact, we thought we'd get the best version of Jeremiah Love.
I did not.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I harped on it the whole time. There's no way
but
to
I mean,
believe it. It's just not, it's not there.
But better than, I mean, why wouldn't it have been a little bit better than what we saw against Georgia? Now he didn't have numbers against Penn State, but he did some really great things. But he wasn't right, and it looked like he was hobbled. He had carried 3 times in that 18-play drive, and he was already showing the ill effects of it. And he only carried it 4 times. You know, I feel like I feel like there's going to be, and I get it because Notre Dame was down 31-7. Like there's going to be blame on Notre Dame for what they didn't do and why they didn't run this defensively and why they didn't. Ohio State was better than them, and Notre Dame. We always talked about a bridge too far. It was tonight. It was too much for them to overcome. And we had talked about how Notre Dame had to create a lesser version of Ohio State. Well, Ohio State did that to Notre Dame.
Will Howard rushed for 6 first downs in this game. I would like to see the month that he rushed for 6 first downs prior to this. 4 of them were on 3rd down, including a crucial one in the 4th quarter. The first half was nearly perfect for Ohio State. I want to put this in perspective for Ohio State's offense in the first half. 13 of their 30 snaps gained either 10 yards or scored touchdowns. 1 of Notre Dame's 25 scored a touchdown. They never gained more than 9 yards. It was an evisceration in the first half, and I'm proud, happy, surprised that Notre Dame came back and played that well in the second half, especially.
Yeah.
It didn't happen until Bowen made the play. As you said, a 70-yard touchdown run is an absolute backbreaker to start the second half. That's the end of it right there for Notre Dame, but it wasn't. They fought back like they did all year. The problem is he had to be perfect, and they are anything but perfect offensively and defensively today. And, Tim, you said you're getting ahead of yourself. Look, we wondered what would happen when they went man-to-man. I do not second-guess cover 0 man-to-man.
I don't either.
Have to find a way to stop them. Christian Gray overplayed the slant. He overplayed the slant more when the sluggo started, and there was so much room to the outside as one of the easiest throws Will Howard has done.
The technique was awful. It wasn't, and we were talking to Golden afterwards. At that point, you've got to take a chance. You can't let them run for the first down. So, in which they were doing with Will Howard. So, again, we're going to second guess all this, but how can we not recognize how great of a team that Ohio State became in the postseason? They've got weapons that Notre Dame doesn't have. And I guess the one area would be we thought that Notre Dame might be able to take advantage of their offensive line, and they couldn't at all.
And Notre Dame could not do anything with Ohio State's defensive line, interior or otherwise. And people who are asking questions about Riley Leonard. Look, Riley Leonard would tell you, and I think did say post-game, that he missed some throws, especially early, that he absolutely needed to and should have made. But Riley Leonard, when people are asking difference between first half Riley Leonard, second half Riley Leonard, Notre Dame made some adjustments. I don't think Ohio State was quite as aggressive in coming after Riley Leonard in the second half. But in the first half, he was miserable. We talked about it pregame instant analysis. I said Notre Dame has to affect Will Howard before Ohio State affects Riley Leonard. And that just was not the case. We talked about time of possession pregame and how much that would be Notre Dame's best defense would be its offense winning time of possession, maybe more important than any game this year. Notre Dame had a 5-minute deficit in time of possession, and as capricious as it is, Notre Dame lost the coin toss And we had already discussed I didn't like that. And as it turned out, the way this game was going, Notre Dame down 21-7 at the half, desperately needed to have been in position to have that opening possession of the second half. Instead, it did not. And then, bam, it was 28-7, and soon thereafter, 31-7.
Guys, how often they didn't pressure Howard.
No, well, I was about to say, Tim Priester, they had 0 quarterback pressures on the day.
Yeah,
I noted them for 1 quarterback pressure. It was R.J. Oben who lost 15 yards on a penalty on his quarterback pressure in one of the more debilitating plays of the season. I think the issue with the third quarter, we're talking about how well they played, how much better they played in the second half. You still had a fake punt on 4th and 1. Maybe they couldn't run Riley Leonard. I couldn't believe they were going to run a fake punt instead of running Riley Leonard 4th and 1 to the line when he already had 6 first downs on 3rd and 4th down, and they went to a Steve Angeli fake. It was a fake punt. It was a good pass. Jordan Faison has to catch that pass to make plays. R.J. Oben has the penalty. On 3rd and 9, nobody covers Jeremiah Love sneaking out of the backfield, and Riley Leonard forces it to Jaden Greathouse, who Jaden Greathouse was playing very well at that point. They had opportunities. Those opportunities are there. You can't miss them when on the other side is Jeremiah Smith. You can't miss them when it's Igbuka cutting you up for a 3rd straight game. And you can't miss them when their quarterback, Will Howard, makes fantastic throws, as opposed to missing open crossing routes. It was just a game where the better team outplayed them, and the valiant effort of Notre Dame wasn't enough.
They were better, and we kept talking about when is Notre Dame going to hit that wall. Ohio State was that wall.
Yes. Yeah. We lost JB there for 1 second. I think what the no rushing first downs for a running back is the thing that I will take away in this game.
Like Penn State's wide receivers not catching a pass.
Right. And the no rushing first downs for running back. JB, I'm not sure if your mic is back or not, but that is one thing I'm going to take away, that like you people complain about Riley Leonard. How about helping him out a little bit with the running game?
And even pregame, again, being down on the field, just visiting with some people, Notre Dame expected to be able to run the football tonight and thought it was going to be able to have some success in the interior of the Ohio State line and then able to bounce some stuff outside, and never did anything remotely approaching successful or consistently successful with that. Again, Jadarian Price's 1 run of 9 yards around the edge, and that was about it. The stat I was trying to speak to a moment ago, and I think I'd muted my mic so that I didn't cough. And that was, and this is just mind-boggling to me, Ohio State did not punt for the final 16 minutes and change of its win against Texas. It did not punt in this game until 6.5 minutes were left in the game. Ohio State had a 70-minute stretch of game clock in the playoffs, the penultimate and the ultimate round of the playoffs, and it had a 70-minute stretch of game clock where it never punted the football. I don't have ESPN stats and info at my fingertips. Maybe somebody will look that up. I would just about guarantee that that's a record in the history of the college football playoff.
What I say to you, Tim? Oh, hey, Ohio State has a punter. Joe McGuire. Joe McGuire, I remember. Yeah. It's like there's plenty of blame to go around, but Ohio State was the better football team, and Notre Dame had to stem the tide after Ohio State tied it, and they couldn't, and it got away from them. It's like you said, Tim. I mean, surprising that Notre Dame rallied the way they did in the second half, and yet that's been the MO of Notre Dame. This team that, I mean, this 14-2 team that did some amazing things, and it ran out of amazing tonight.
Chris Amos asked the question that I asked after instant analysis, and we have some vague answers for you. More should have been on Smith. They don't play that way is the first answer. The second answer is Leonard Moore. I asked him about playing the field. He's not as comfortable playing field. That's the field side cornerback. I don't know if people watching the game don't realize they play boundary field, not left and right, and they don't follow people around. But I did say to both of you, it's 3rd down with the season on the line. They put Leonard Smith over there. Christian Gray has played on the boundary for an entire football season until this year. He was the boundary corner. He has help over there. Can you put Leonard Moore on Smith for one play? It's a question we'll ask Mike Mickens when we have time, when we get away from this game, we have a chance to ask him. I don't know what the answer is there. I know he wouldn't be as comfortable, but Christian Gray was not comfortable in that situation.
Yeah, in watching Ohio State, I thought they moved Smith around.
They do it all the time.
No, but
one matchup with more today that I remember.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That I thought there would be more, and you were absolutely right. There weren't, and they took advantage of Gray. And it's just unfortunate that his technique broke down on that last play, because hey, if you make that play or knock it down or something, you still have another shot at it. And,
a few people are asking, can Riley come back? Will he apply for a fifth-year waiver? Riley Leonard is not coming back for a fifth year at Notre Dame. So go ahead, JB.
He's done. I think the whole Leonard Moore, Christian Gray dynamic will be very compelling for spring camp. Will we start to see more cross-training at that point in time? Will they flip those guys from field to boundary and vice versa? But I do think it's significant to note, as much as we had high expectations of Christian Gray, and it seemed like this year he was either really, really good or had some really tough, bad moments. He hadn't played too terribly much football last year, and it was just a true sophomore. So now you've got Christian Gray going into his true junior year, having played the most football of his life, and you have Leonard Moore going into his true sophomore year, and then you've got Adon Schuler, I guess, going into his redshirt sophomore year. I love the nucleus that Mike Mickens should bring back in the secondary. And I'm not at all surprised. Even when it was 31-7 and people were texting me, this is about to be a blowout. And I even told somebody this has shades of TCU versus Georgia in the title game. I said, but I don't think it'll get that bad. And it didn't get like that. I'm not at all surprised that Notre Dame's competitive character shined. And I wouldn't even use the term that there's plenty of blame to go around, because I think it's hard to say blame needs to be doled out when Notre Dame was just not as good a team as Ohio State. Not on the field tonight, and not when we watch these rosters transition so many of their players to the NFL in the coming years. That doesn't mean that Notre Dame hasn't dramatically upgraded its roster, particularly under Marcus Freeman, Chad Bowden, and that crew, but they still have a lot of work to do. They don't have anybody remotely like a Jeremiah Smith, and without Jeremiah Love healthy, they didn't have anybody in the backfield tonight as good as Travion Henderson or Quinshad Judkins. And I've made the point. I'll make the point again. You hope by bringing back essentially your entire offensive line, or potentially your entire offensive line, and Jordan Faison and Jaden Greathouse and Love and Price and all of that, and being in year 2 of Mike Denbrock's offense, you hope you can propel the offense forward, but you still have to break in a new quarterback for the 6th year in a row. And until we see Notre Dame go into back-to-back seasons with the same quarterback, I think it's going to be hard to get to this point and be the team in a clear commanding position to not only have a chance to win the game, but to be the team in position that should win the game.
Question from Chris Amos. We can all three answer, and I have my answers a little different. He says, would you have gone for it? He means 4th and 9 on that 4th and 9. The way Notre Dame executed the first 3 plays, I would not have gone for it either. I understand that cutting it to 13 makes it still a 2-score game. It's either 2 touchdowns to win or a touchdown, a 2-point conversion, and a field goal, of course, to tie. The throw by Riley Leonard on 2nd down it was one-on-one with Mitchell Evans. He threw it out of bounds by 9 yards. There was no one in the world that could catch that ball. 3rd down, he made the wrong read. Jeremiah Love was wide open for a walk-in on the other side. And the first play, Riley Leonard looked like he had been playing for 6 days straight when he tried to run for that opening play on 1st and goal from the 9-yard line. I don't blame Marcus Freeman for that at all. If anything, it was the 3 plays prior that probably convinced Freeman, I don't think we can get this. And he didn't go for it.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead, Jimmy.
I was just going. I don't necessarily disagree that the poor execution of the first 3 goal-to-go plays dictated what Marcus decided to do on 4th and goal. But once you get inside the 10-yard line and that nature of the game, then I think you've got to be running your offense where every play has to give you a great chance to be moving forward, because it has to be 4-down territory. When you're down 16 points and you have goal to go, everything about your approach has to be, this is 4-down territory, because we're down 16 and we've got to try to cut it in half. Now, having said all that, how beautiful and brilliant were Notre Dame's play calls on the 2 2-point conversions. We hadn't really seen them have to have a 2-point conversion all year. and you're supposed to have your money plays.
Payson made a heck of a play.
They had money plays.
Tackle.
And the shovel pass, the perfect timing on the shovel pass.
Yeah.
And he sold it really well. You still thought he was going to run it, and then he pulled up and threw it. That was a great call. The Oban, Tim, you referenced the Oban roughing. That was a 31-15 game at that point.
It would have been 3rd and 8 had he not roughed at their 34, 35-yard line. Instead of
it ultimately led to, shortly thereafter came the forced fumble by Bowen, but it just took more time off the clock, and the clock was not Notre Dame's friend at that point.
Yeah, there's a lot of NIL questions here. We're going to get into the weeds with talking about who has enough NIL to compete with Ohio State. Let me put it this way. Ohio State had a lot of NIL funds this year, the $20 million roster. A lot of it was from retaining their recruits. All right? You can complain all you want. They brought in good players like Notre Dame did. Will Howard and Riley Leonard came in, made a lot of money. Will Howard was the MVP of this football game.
Yeah, and that's in the scouting piece today that we had on Football Scoop. I thought that was really critical to note that one of the coaches that we spoke with that has great familiarity with both programs said, look, I know everybody talks about the money for Ohio State's roster, and it was around between 18 and 20 million, which is easily double of what Notre Dame had invested in this roster based on people I know with both programs. So that's significant. But Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau and Tyleek Hamilton and all those guys, those were original Ohio State recruits that, as you mentioned, T.O., were paid to stay. And a guy like Emeka Egbuka was given a great deal to come back and play one more year of college ball when he could have been an NFL draft pick last year. Now, I do think as it pertains to Notre Dame moving forward, we've seen them make some significant acquisitions in the transfer portal. That doesn't happen with NIL funding. Malachi Fields getting Devontae Smith from Alabama to work in the secondary next year. Defensive lineman from USC, defensive lineman from Louisville. Those are some of the most expensive positions to acquire in the transfer portal. And I know that Notre Dame intends also to heavily reinvest in its current roster to cut down on attrition. And as we've already noted, it has already heavily reinvested to keep Jeremiah Love away from the prying fingers of some other college football playoff teams.
They have in the past. Benjamin Morrison isn't here for free playing for the love of Notre Dame. I don't want to turn this into Ohio State bought this championship, because Ohio State went out and won this championship. Notre Dame has plenty of money in NIL. They lost to a much better football team.
This defense.
Benjamin Morrison didn't stay here because they love going to class. They got paid too. All right, let's
Hey,
putting it on this Ohio State. The Ohio State outplayed Notre Dame on the field today.
In Ohio State, that is a old veteran Ohio State defense. It's the best defense in the country. Notre Dame was right there. Ohio State was better because at the point of attack on defense, and we talked about that in instant analysis, Notre Dame's got it.
It might have been the bridge too far, Tim. Howard Cross hurt. Riley Mills out.
Yeah,
the two ends out.
I mean, we caught flack for continuing to say that, but that's what happened today. Notre Dame's defensive line. Look, El Golden did an amazing job for a defensive line that wasn't great against the run. He did things with his front seven. The secondary is an aggressive tackling group, and they help against the run. But Notre Dame is just not stout enough at the point of attack. And we talked about Ty Hamilton, Talik Williams. Those guys are barriers in the middle of that defensive line. And then you've got Tuimoloau on the outside and Sawyer. They did a pretty good job.
I do want to point out, Tim, because Chris Amos is asking, the best running back in ND history had 4 carries for 3 yards. He wasn't healthy to run. You couldn't give him the ball. He wasn't going anywhere. This is a ridiculous comment. You're not going to say Jeremiah Love isn't 100% during the game. You're the coach of the team. You want to make him ready to play.
You think he was healthy and they didn't give him the ball?
He wasn't 100% healthy. Why do people think that people are telling the truth in press conferences too?
Also, I think it's important to note that Jeremiah Love, and you and I noted this on the field, T.O., he did try to play without the brace tonight, and then one of his earliest touches, he really got rocked. And you wonder if the absence of the brace and then really getting hammered so very early on just completely set him back, took him out of the game for whatever they hoped that he would be able to do, because it had been a couple of days of extra rest from the 12 touches or 13 touches that he had in last week's win against Penn State. And one other thing I obviously want to note, I made the point about Notre Dame getting ready to have a 6th different quarterback in as many years and how hard it is. I'm aware of the fact Will Howard was in his first and only year at Ohio State, and they had the McCord kid last year. They had a couple of years of C.J. Stroud before that when they nearly beat Georgia in the semifinals of the 2002 playoffs. But Will Howard was healthy for spring practice. He got that full slate of time. I think we all agree that will forever have impacted the fluidity of Notre Dame's offense this year by the fact that Riley Leonard was not healthy and could not have that spring camp. And then, again, a more veteran offensive line that Will Howard operated behind most of the year. Travion Henderson, a deeply entrenched tailback, and then augmented by the best tailback that went in the portal last year and a guy who led the SEC in rushing, and Quinshawn Judkins, and then Carnell Tate in his 3rd year in the program, I think, and Emeka Ibuka, obviously, in his 4th. So you had these super veteran, highly skilled players to shepherd along Jeremiah Smith. So it's not just that Notre Dame doesn't have anybody as remotely as dynamic as Jeremiah Smith in the throw game, but it's also that Notre Dame doesn't have as many old pieces around on its offense to help supplement.
Question from James Womack, because JB, you mentioned you want to get into this. Thoughts of the defensive coordinator position going forward?
Yeah, I've got a story that we'll publish in the coming hours or maybe minutes on Football Scoop. Cincinnati Bengals have offered Al Golden their defensive coordinator job. He's clearing away their top target. He's not a target of interest. He has been verbally offered the job, and I would expect he will make a final decision in relatively short order in the next 24 to 48 hours.
You know, I think he was a great fit for Notre Dame. He loves Notre Dame. But the opportunity, the Bengals job opened up. He just came from there. I guess it's 3 years into it, but very highly liked and respected by that organization. And so when we heard the news about their coordinator getting fired, it was only going to be a matter of time. And he doesn't have to recruit. Ultimately it's a decision that is a pretty easy one, even though I know that he has a great deal of respect for Notre Dame and is a good fit for Notre Dame.
Here's a couple of elements I want to point out that I gleaned from visiting with a number of coaches and agents last week at AFCA in Charlotte, and then again, frankly, the past 48 hours here in Atlanta. And that is, first and foremost, if it wasn't Cincinnati, it was very strongly indicated to me that Al Golden probably wouldn't have entertained it whatsoever. That I was point blank told, if this was Seattle calling him, I'm not sure he takes his phone call. The fact that it's Cincinnati is a lure for his family. It would probably be a 3-year deal with the Bengals. The NFL just really doesn't do 4-year deals. It's not about money. Notre Dame has made clear its financial commitment to Al Golden and made clear it will continue to increase that financial commitment to Al Golden. But here I think is the other key thing. And talking with so many people these last 10 days specifically about Al Golden, the perception out there overwhelmingly is that Al Golden has a better path to be a significant head coaching candidate in the NFL than he does right now in college, because he's so meticulous, because he's so professorial, and because he's so great with X's and O's. And so there's a very strong belief that Al Golden, if he goes and helps the Bengals get back to another Super Bowl or a couple of deep postseason runs, people very strongly believe he will be an NFL head coaching candidate.
We do have multiple questions because it was from Irish Illustrated Insider. Why does Pete Sampson not believe Mickens would be a top candidate? He didn't say that. He said he didn't think he'd get the job. I do think Mickens will be a top candidate in the first interview, but where would they look outside the family in this situation? But most importantly, how does that affect Mike Mickens?
I would be stunned.
I think he'd be the next defensive coordinator is my.
I would be stunned if at minimum Mike Mickens wasn't co-defensive coordinator and maybe they hired somebody else on the defense.
But those are two different things, John. I mean, co-defensive coordinator.
Not two different things to sit there and say he's got no shot to be defensive coordinator and you don't know how it would be done. I don't think it's two different things at all. I don't agree with that. I think if you're defensive coordinator or co-defensive coordinator, it's very significant. And I'm just saying that's one option that Marcus Freeman could pursue, and that I would be frankly very stunned if Mike Mickens wasn't at minimum co-defensive.
Okay, but give me a chance to say this. Okay, co-defensive coordinator, is he calling the defensive plays, or is
We
he
don't know that. We don't know that.
But see, that's why I'm saying it's two different things. I mean, Al Golden, defensive coordinator, he's calling the plays.
Al Golden, okay.
A co-defensive coordinator generally that's a money issue. He's named a co-defensive coordinator. Of course, he could be named a defensive coordinator, but is he the lead play caller in that situation?
Well, listen what Al Golden said. Al Golden said this week that Mike Mickens already makes defensive calls.
I know. I was the one that asked him that question. I get that, but co-defensive coordinator and Al Golden being defensive coordinator are two different things.
Chris Amos says Marcus can call the plays. That actually will not be what happens, Chris. He's got a lot going on as the head coach of the football team. So he will not be calling the plays as the defensive coordinator. I actually think that if Al Golden leaves, that
Marcus didn't call the plays against Oklahoma State. He's not going to do it now. It's the ingrained head coach. You know what I'm saying, JB? I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying there's a big difference between.
I think there's a difference, but those are variables we can't possibly answer. And I'm saying maybe it's co-defensive coordinator because it will be truly collaborative, or maybe it's co-defensive coordinator because the other person they want to bring in needs that title from a money standpoint. Maybe that other person, whoever it is, has in his contract that he can't leave his present school or job unless it's for a promotion to something like a coordinator position. That's a very common phrase in contracts as it pertains to buyouts, especially if you're a position coach. You pay a buyout if you try to leave for a level move. You don't pay a buyout if you're getting a promotion to a title like a co-defensive coordinator or something.
But what if Mickens wants to be the solo guy and the guy that calls the plays?
Well, that's my point. Was what happens to Mickens if someone else is brought in? That's
what I'm trying to say.
I asked Mike Mickens tonight. I didn't say it could be this week. I just said when the time comes, whether it's the very near future or not, how ready do you feel to call a defense and be a defensive coordinator? And he said, I'm absolutely ready. I will answer the call.
Good question, because I don't think.
But that's not his decision. That's Marcus Freeman's. That's Marcus Freeman's decision.
Quick question.
You've already heard Marcus Freeman talk about that Mike Mickens is going to be a star defensive coordinator and that he's ready to be a defensive coordinator.
Will Marcus Freeman name Mike Mickens the sole defensive coordinator?
I don't know. Ask him.
I think.
I don't know.
If I were to guess, I think he will. But I do agree with Rajon, who mentioned, he mentioned Pete, but I think this is just, I think Pete must be thinking this, but also Rajon, I think you're right. If he's not, Freeman's looking for experience, obviously. I think it'll be Mike Mickens because of the chance of losing Mike Mickens is too great. Jason Z, we did not talk about reports of arguments happening in the Notre Dame locker room because we didn't see them. We got secondhand report. I was with Marcus Freeman. Actually, we were all with Marcus Freeman. And JB was with Mickens. And you were also in there.
And I got in there after about 5 minutes of Freeman and Leonard and Jack Kaiser at the podium. And then I wanted to hurry off to the locker room because I had some definite people I wanted to talk to. Most of them I did not get the opportunity to do so. I didn't see anything of that nature when I went in there. I saw a very somber locker room, and I saw some people definitely on guard in the locker room, but I didn't see anything along the lines of outbursts or anything.
Tim, were you with me when we were told that there was?
Yes, but I don't want to report what another site told me.
No, I understand. I'm just saying there was we were told there was a reaction to the media because there was frustration.
Yes.
I mean, they had just lost and Christian Gray had just been beaten deep, and there was a reaction to the media.
We were told
there, which is which is common and not surprising because they just lost a damn national title.
We got Mike Denbrock late in the. He had not been requested yet. That's why no one talked to Mike Denbrock. By the way, I requested Mike Denbrock late, and that's why he came out and talked to a few of us. So I did not see that, but Tim and I, Priester and I, were in with Freeman the whole time. So I think whatever happened or purportedly happened, we weren't there for any of it. We didn't see anything like that. When we got in there were 4 minutes left, and there was a scrum around Golden, and the players were done. And then
there were either 9 or 11 minutes left when I walked in there, one or the other, and there was nothing of any sort of altercation.
So whatever must have happened would have happened earlier. Than everyone else. So for Jason Z, I can't give you the answer, but we tried. That's what happened when we were in there. Either way, this was not supposed to be about Mike Mickens, Al Golden, people yelling in the locker room or anything like that. We thought Notre Dame would play better football tonight. They played well for a little while. They fought valiantly. They're not as good as Ohio State. Ohio State deserved to win this game. You cannot, other than Notre Dame not playing in character, and there's plenty of little things they didn't do well, especially as someone pointed out earlier. I apologize for not getting the name here. The second and third drives offensively really hurt this team while Ohio State was going down and scoring a touchdown. When you're snapping the ball to Mitchell Evans going in motion, when you're not executing anything, when you have Bo Collins wide open on a crossing route, as a drive starter on first down is a good call by Mike Denbrock. It didn't work because the ball was poorly thrown. People talk about play calling. That was a good call by Mike Denbrock. It was a missed pass. Will Howard would have hit that pass. Ohio State had better players. They won tonight. Do you guys have anything else for the evening?
No, sir.
It's as good of a first half of offensive football I have seen, considering the defense they went against.
Yeah, just a great season of Notre Dame football. I think as disappointing as tonight is for Irish Nation, I said it before the game. I'll say it again. They beat SEC champion Georgia. They really routed Army and Navy in the midst of magical seasons for both of those programs. They were unbeaten at the time. Louisville was ranked top 20. I mean, Marcus Freeman had won 9 consecutive games against AP-ranked opponents until tonight's loss. And so they won a home playoff game that was a magical atmosphere. They won the Sugar Bowl and the Orange Bowl in the same year for a program that infamously hadn't won a major bowl game in more than 3 decades. There's a lot of reason to believe if they get their quarterback situation fairly resolved or confidently positioned in the spring, they should be contending for a playoff berth again next year.
Ohio State 34, Notre Dame 23. The Irish will try to return next year for another shot at college football's national championship.